Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the TBR podcast, To Be Read, where we'll talk about books, authors, and the industry. And as always, I'm joined with Michael Laurent. How you doing?
Great, Patrick. How are you today?
Excellent. How's your weekend reading been?
Pretty light. Pretty light. We had a housewarming party over the weekend, so a lot of my
Okay.
time was spent getting ready for that. But I was able to get a few books read. The first thing I read was Nyteblayde, episode 1 by Garrett Robinson, and I don't know if I talked about that last week or not, but yeah, that's his ongoing serial that he's writing. He's writing every week, or an episode every week from now until the end of time, or until he can figure out how to end the series. So it's very interesting. I liked it a lot. It kind of follows, and you talked about it last week because you finished it, but
hmm
um, I thought it had some interesting characters, and I'm not quite sure where it's going to go. So I'll be curious to see what the rest of the first season looks like. And you and I will be reading that here
Yep.
next. So that'll be fun to read to see what he does with it because it's kind of groundbreaking. Just the way he does it, vlogs every single part of what he's writing. The design, the writing, the editing, kind of like DVD extras. So I
For
read
sure.
that. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed that, and I also read Mothers, part
Okay.
one of the Invisible series by Michelle Reed. We had her on last week, and I had to read it, so it was a lot of fun. It was really short, though. I felt like I wanted a lot more, so I'll be curious to see what book two is going to be like. I don't think it's out yet, is it?
Yeah, book two's
Yeah.
out,
Is it out?
and book three is on the way, I believe. She hasn't started it
Okay.
yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I'll have to grab book two next.
Good.
So yeah, that's kind of my reading week. Pretty light,
Uh,
but
this-
yeah, I have a lot more time. I have a lot more time this week, so I'll be able to catch up. Like
you're like
I
fully
started
settled.
Wool, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I started it, but I'm not enough in it to where I can even talk about it. Like I'm just the first chapter, so hopefully I'll have
Okay.
more of that read next time we talk. And Nightblade, gonna read more of that,
Yep.
and anything else that just tips my fancy. I just kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of a sojourner. I don't like to stay in one genre for very long, but I need to try to stick more with fantasy because I haven't been reading very much of that lately. So
Yeah, the
Nightblade would be a
problem.
good way to start that.
Yeah, I run into the same problem, kind of, especially with series where I'll read, I'll use Unicorn Western as an example by Sean Platt and Johnny B. Truant. I read the first one and then got to, read some other things and then went back and read book two. And there's like 7 other books in the series, and I haven't gone back to it yet because
Yeah.
I'm always moving around and reading different things. Um, so I've been reading Nightblade as well. I read episode 2 today. I think he's got the first 6 episodes, or episode 6 is coming out. So I believe he's going to be wrapping up the first season this week. I'm reading episode 2, and I'll kind of be reading an episode a day through like until the first season's done. So for anyone who hasn't started reading that series, that's again Nightblade by Garrett Robinson. It's fantasy, and as Michael said, it's not. We're not really sure where he's going with it yet, but there's definitely magic. We know that.
Yeah.
This character, the main character, Lauren, seems to have aspirations to become some sort of a master criminal, or you'll learn about this a little bit more in episode 2, Michael, a master thief.
Yep.
So in episode 2, she's sort of on the run, and she, at the very end of episode 1, well, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, so just read it.
Yeah.
Um, the
I
other
know what
book,
you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
the other book I read was Guardians of the Shroud by Scott Richards,
Nice.
and excellent book. Really, really enjoyed it. I've got the reviews up in the usual places. So it's part of a series called Darlichi's Shroud, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, I hope. So the main character is a teenager named Josh, and he's bullied and beaten down, and he gets beaten at home. His parents are terrible people, and he's an empath. So he can very easily pick up on the emotions of people, and we learn in this book sort of that isn't just a natural ability, or it's probably partly natural, but something that's being enhanced in him there is this thing called the Shroud, which I don't think I'm ruining anything. You could probably tell by looking at the cover that there's these creatures living in the Shroud, which is some sort of like a barrier between our world and some other world. Really, really enjoyed the book and the characters. It's book 2 in the series is out, Defenders of the Shroud, so I'm also reading that right now. And I'm only a couple chapters in there, so I'm not sure where that's going to go. But excellent book. I'll note, when we talk about these sort of self-published books, that one of the things I noticed when reading this, we had talked about another book recently where I had said that it could have used kind of a final polish or an edit.
Yeah.
I did notice when reading that extremely clean. I mean, even traditionally published books have typos in them or things that are misspelled. This one was really, really clean. Maybe just one or two little things. So whoever did the editing, kudos to them. I don't know, it may have even been Scott himself but they did a great job too. So it's turning out to be a great series. I don't know if he's planning on writing. I know he's planning on doing 3 books. I don't know if there'll be more than that or not. One of the things I like about this book too is that Scott is a complete bastard to his characters. I kind of alluded to that in my reviews, where if this was any other sort of, I don't know if I would classify this as YA or if he does or not, but in the Hunger Games or any of these other kinds of books, I don't think you would never see the turnout in one of those kinds of traditional books as you see here, and so he really gives his characters a beating, and it's awesome. So that's good. Thoroughly enjoyed that, and that was it for my weekend reading.
Nice. That's a pretty good week.
Yeah, not bad. I'm going to continue with Nyteblayde, the series. Like I said, I read episode 2 today. I'll continue with episode 3 tomorrow. Guardians of the Shroud, I'm going to read the second one there. Defenders of the Shroud. And then we'll see if I can get through anything else.
Yeah, and Scott Richards, he just joined the storytelling podcast, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I believe tonight is his first sort of entry into that podcast, and that happens 10 o'clock. So
Awesome.
that they go on Tuesday nights about an hour after we do. So if you're watching here and you want more, go join the storytelling podcast.
Yeah, they talk about books and writing and all that stuff. So it's a good podcast.
I'm just going to do a real quick check for comments here. And nothing so far except Michael Oran checking in saying evening all.
Howdy.
So, covers. Our topic for the night. Book covers. What do we like and what do we hate about them? As independent authors, should be doing them ourselves. What's that?
No, I think it's funny.
What's that?
No, just this. What we hate about book covers. We could talk all night about crappy covers.
And I don't think I brought an example of. Maybe I'll try to find it while we're talking. But there's some great websites out there of examples of just unbelievably terrible book covers. And there are a lot of them out there. And so I think that's something we need to be aware of. Is you need to recognize your own limitations, right? So that was a question. Who did your book covers?
I've had a couple of book cover artists. My first few books were done by C.L. James. He's a Kindle pre-made book cover artist.
Okay.
He does these wonderful, fabulous covers that go on Write.com. Just go on, like GOON Write.com. They're just beautiful covers. Like you would never know that they were pre-made. So my first couple of covers and some smaller books were done by him. And then my illustrated covers for Festival of Shadows and my upcoming series, Eaton, were done by Kip Ayers. And he's an illustration artist who does book covers, who does a really awesome job. So
okay.
Definitely don't do it myself. I don't have the skills or the balance or the taste and color to ever be able to do that.
Did you try?
No, I don't even try because it would just be pathetic. I would just be one of those indies, that just crops together a picture of a, wolf howling at a full moon and, woman with, beautiful body, and it's just terrible. I don't have that's just not my thing. I can't do it. I'll always hire out a cover artist.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't have any. It would be terrible. And so, however, there are some self-published authors who can do them themselves. I know David Wright does a lot of the cover work for the Collective Inkwell and Realm and Sands books. Although he didn't do these covers. So for Unicorn Western was one of the books that I mentioned by that sort of group of authors. Excuse me. So they are, a group that will do their own book covers, but recognize when they're sort of out of their depth, and then they'll hire somebody else to do them. And then you have an author like Garrett Robinson, who we talked about already, who, he's got all kinds of talent. He's a movie maker, and clearly he's also a graphic artist, and as well as being a writer. And I don't know if we can bring up at some point the cover for his Nyteblayde series, because I know that's one that he did himself, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I've actually got that. That was one of the covers I was going to mention tonight.
Okay,
so.
Perfect.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Even with like a program like Canva, where you can apparently do your own Kindle book covers now, I was playing around with it and I still couldn't. Even with like a guided walkthrough, I still couldn't do it. So.
Well, I saw something from Joanna Penn this week where she's been playing around with Canva for her next book cover.
Yeah.
So it's there's nothing wrong with playing around with it, but I think at the end of the day, you have to realize, like I said, when you're kind of out of your depth. And so one of the websites I mentioned earlier that I like poking around in, it's just called lousybookcovers.com.
Yeah. That's a funny one.
That's a fun one to spend some time on and just go, that to be avoided. So what do you hate about book covers? What are things that might show up on a book cover that kind of immediately either turn you away, I guess, or draw you in?
First off is a god-awful use of colors.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what it is with like indie authors and like ketchup and mustard, but like all these horrible book covers have this awful clash of red and yellow, or like the text, you just can't read it, or it's just in a bad color. And yeah, colors really bother me. Like I think a good book cover has to have that, has to be harmonized. It's got to have a good balance of color. And if there's not much color, if it's a black cover or a white cover, I think that's okay. I tend to be drawn toward books that kind of have abstract, an artsy kind of feel to them. I don't necessarily care if a book doesn't meet a genre expectation. Like if I'm going to read a sci-fi book, I don't necessarily care that there's not some futuristic city on it, or that there's a spaceship. It seems like every sci-fi book has a spaceship on it some way. Like I guess I like looking at covers as art. And I guess as an author that's problematic, because it seems like a lot of the advice is to brand your cover to a genre specifically, but I tend to prefer an artist that does a really good job with color and font and typography, just for the sake of it.
One of the things that turns me off of a book cover, and this may be a genre thing, is people.
Yeah.
And so I don't like to see characters typically on my science fiction books. I like to imagine the characters myself for the most part. Now, having people on the covers is obviously a big part of romance, probably erotica. That's kind of the norm there. But when there's something about having a photo of a model, standing on the cover that just kind of typically looks cheap to me.
Yeah.
I like I like my spaceships and my futuristic cities on the covers of my sci-fi, but they don't have to be there. Ready Player One, I think the cover for that book is something that really drew me in. That cover with the
different colors.
Well, it's kind of a little bit muted colors, but it's a picture of like a little town that's kind of been built up and made out of like old RVs and stuff like that, with ladders and so I like that one. I'll show you an example if we start screen sharing of some insane covers, but for anyone who's listening afterwards, the Simon Morden covers for his Metrazone series, with one of them is like Equations of Life. well, here, I'll try to screen share. But this is a series where the covers will, quite frankly, make you go blind. But it worked for me. When I saw the cover for this book, it grabbed my interest, and I bought the book. So can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can
So
like see it rotating.
Yeah, I'll talk for a second just so it stays up on the screen. But yeah, this and the other covers for there's 4 books in the series. The first 3 books have this kind of style of cover. Each one is a different, design like this that, like I said, will make you go blind if you look at it for too long. The 4th book, I don't believe had a cover like this. And then when he released like at the trilogy, the first 3 in a series, it has like kind of a more typical science fiction cover. And then I'll share one more with you, and then we can get to showing yours. Because you were talking about the sort of the science fiction covers, and so this is an author whose covers really jumped out at me once again and kind of got me interested in his work. I'll show this to you here. I think I may have shown these to you before. Philip Palmer. Can you see that?
Interesting.
So his covers typically have most of his covers have this kind of toys, so we're looking at Red Claw right now by Philip Palmer, and it's got like 2 sort of spacemen, they're clearly toys, standing over the bodies of some dead, what look like crickets or something. One of his other covers the title escapes me right now, but it's basically like Barbie dolls.
Mm-hmm.
So his covers typically have like toys on them and stuff. Not all of them, but so it's just I think it's good to be unique. There's a way to be unique with your covers while still sort of meeting the requirements of the genre.
And that's where hiring a professional comes in.
Absolutely.
Because I definitely couldn't do a cover like that. Not at all. So let's see if I can get my screen share to work.
Sure.
Okay.
And one of the... Go ahead.
Oh, can you see the screen?
Well, go ahead, talk.
Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes, there I can.
Okay. The Light Between Oceans. Yeah, this is a literary fiction novel by M.L. Stedman, but this caught my eye right away. I just and this isn't a high-res image. If you see it in high-res, it's even more beautiful. But for those who are listening, it's just basically a darkened silhouette of a lighthouse and just a navy blue sky just full of stars, and there's like a nebula above it. I mean, it's just a beautiful cover. I mean, it just draws you in and makes you want to know more about it. And just the color and the use of the gold on the text, I think really just sets it off.
Yep, that's nice.
Yeah, and then let's see.
For some reason, I'll tell you, every time I see that book in the bookstore or online, I don't know if it's the similarity between covers or because it's got the word ocean in the title, but I see that cover and immediately think of Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Yeah.
I think the covers might be similar colors.
Yeah, they are. Except don't read this book. I didn't enjoy it. All right, next up.
Do read Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Yes, please. All right, and this is one I thought this was interesting. I came across this in the Kindle store one day, and this is the Guardians Inc. This is a series by Julian Rosado McCain, and the first book is called The Cipher, and I haven't read it, so I don't know what genre it is, but it kind of looks like some occult, YA. I guess I love the camera angle on it. You know how it's illustrated, but it's like you're looking over this boy's shoulder, and you've got all these demons that are coming after him, and yeah, it's like maybe he's in his house or something, and they popped up. It just intrigues me. Like it makes me want to know more.
Yeah, it definitely looks like fantasy.
Yeah, YA fantasy for sure. So those are the couple that I have. Do you have some more?
Nope.
Okay, well, I guess I can share a few more if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. Because I didn't. We don't want to screen share too much for people listening to the audio. So apologies if you're listening to this afterwards. We're trying to make sure that we tell you what we're looking at, so you can look it up yourself.
This is a very visual topic. So, and then this is kind of an abstract book cover. Brilliance by Marcus Sacchi, if that's how you say his name. But I'm not sure what this is. I think it's like a literary fiction, contemporary fiction, but
We've got a quote on the cover there from Lee Child, so
yeah. Maybe it's a thriller. I don't know. So, but yeah, it's just one I came across in the Kindle store and I thought was pretty good.
hmm
And of course, the one we talked about that we were going to talk about is
there you go. Yep.
Nyteblayde, which is by Garrett Robinson. This is just a beautiful cover. I guess I love this cover. I mean, it's just the sword and just the brilliance of her eyes, her green eyes, and you kind of get the sense that she's like a ninja thief. You know, it's just a beautiful cover.
Yeah, and so that's a good example of, like I said, I don't like seeing people on my covers, but that's not people on a cover. That's not
No.
the hero standing on the hill or howling at the moon. Like
that's art. You know.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's art. You know, and I actually don't mind people on the cover as long as they don't look cheesy. So I guess I'll stop sharing now. But you know, if it looks like a cover artist went on Shutterstock.com, and typed in, female model with blonde hair, and just grabbed the first thing that they could in some kind of an actiony pose. I don't really care about that, but I think that I'll share one more cover.
Okay.
I'll share one more cover because just to prove a point. All right. This cover here, and you can't really see it that well. I think this is The Tempest by Julie Cross, and I just was Googling beautiful book covers, and this popped up. I think this is a really good use of really good use of stock photos, right? Because you've got these characters in dramatic poses, but it doesn't look cheap. It actually looks expensive. It looks like something that you'd want to buy, and it's kind of reminiscent of the Michelangelo painting in the Sistine Chapel, where you've got God and he's reaching for Adam. That's kind of what it reminds me of. So I haven't read that book. I don't know what it's about, but the topic is judging a book by its cover, right? That's definitely something I would crack open. I'd be curious to see what it's about.
I'm just going to see if I can find one quickly, and if I can't, then I'll at least tell you what I was looking for. So they're hang on, sorry.
No worries.
One of the terrible book covers are certainly not limited to traditionally published authors. Sometimes you get them from the so-called masters, and there's a Dean Koontz cover. I'm going to just see if I can find it real quick. Where it literally looks like they took a picture of the woods and then took a picture of his family dog and photoshopped it onto the... I hope I can find this. If I can't, maybe I'll post it under... I'm not going to waste...
That sounds pretty awful to begin with.
It's terrible, out loud, horrible. I wish I could remember the name of the book so I could find it quickly, but I'm not going to keep looking here because I'm going to be wasting everybody's time. So I'll post it on our Google Plus page so people can see it later if they want. But it's just awful, and I don't know how a traditional publisher to happen unless it's because he's Dean Koontz and he said, I'm Dean Koontz. It's the cover I want. Let me see here. Anything else you want to talk about covers?
We have a comment.
Oh, okay.
And we have a comment from David Anson. It says, "Don't say Garrett's name again. If you say it 3 times, he will show up, just like Candyman or my ex."
What's he going to do if he shows up?
Yeah, I don't know. Troll the comments.
Yeah.
That's all I got for book covers. I mean, I just love a good book cover, and I confess I really do judge books by their covers. I mean,
and that's unfortunate.
I do.
Well, yeah. I mean, everybody does it. It's inevitable. I'll tell you. So, one of the things I really do like about looking for books online these days, we've talked a little bit before about how shopping in the bookstore has become less of an enjoyable experience because, well, for a lot of different reasons. One of them being that the bookstores are turning into they sell house coats and purses and all kinds of crap that isn't books. If they had less garbage in the bookstore, maybe they'd have more room to put books on the shelves face out. So, unfortunately, a lot of these book covers we don't get to see. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're shopping online on Amazon or Kobo or any place like that, it's all book covers,
Yeah.
right? So when you look at the also bots or the books that it's showing that you might enjoy, you're so much more likely to see a cover that you probably would have missed in the bookstore, because of course they're going to have the Stephen King face out and the Dean Koontz and whoever else. Everybody else gets put spine out, and so how do you get somebody interested in your book cover if their first impression of you is the spine?
Right.
So
Well,
maybe
no,
go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to say maybe that's what sort of less well-known authors should be focusing on if they're going to be either traditionally published, or in which case they maybe don't have a lot of say in their cover, or if they're somehow getting books into the stores, maybe you should worry more about making an awesome book spine than an awesome book cover. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing is that, when you talk about bookstores, when I was younger, I would go into bookstores and I would grab covers and I'd say, oh man, that's an awesome cover. But I would never once think about the cover artist. And I feel like now with the ebook revolution and a lot of self-published authors publishing their books, I feel like cover artists are starting to get their days, Like they're starting to get their 15 minutes of fame and starting to get recognized, and I think that's a really good thing. So it's kind of a byproduct of it.
Yeah, we start to hear names of cover like Jason Gurley, I think, does for Hugh Howey, I believe.
I think that's M.S. Corley, isn't it? Jason Gurley does Johnny B. Trent and Sean Platts, right?
Maybe. Okay.
I think they had him on a recent episode. I think M.S. Corley is the one who does Hugh Howey's covers.
Okay. So we're starting to learn their names.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly who they're designing for, but yeah, they're out there. They're starting, and that's so the self-publishing industry is amazing because it's not just about the writers. There's so many other. You've got the guys doing the voice work for audiobooks, cover designers, editors. There's just so much work out there for people to do if they're interested, and it's a good time. It's a good time to be getting involved in the industry.
Yep, and make sure to have a good cover because that's what people judge it by.
Absolutely. Okay, one last check for comments, and then we're right on half an hour, so we can wrap it up.
Awesome. I don't see
We've got Xavier. We've got Xavier here too, saying greetings. Hi, Xavier.
Hey, Xavier. Thanks for watching.
And I'll throw this out there, but if anybody in the comments, the two people who are commenting, I don't know if there's anybody else watching who hasn't commented yet. But if anybody has sort of an idea for a topic that they would like to see us cover, we'll kind of keep an eye on the comments for the next couple days if anybody's watching afterwards. But feel free to throw out a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, and we'll do it next week, or if we get more than one, we'll slot them in. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for everybody who showed up in the comments, or if you're watching afterwards, thank you. And we will talk to you next week.
Yep, see you next week.
Have a great night. Take care.